بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ثم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. This surah from Al-Quran Al-Kareem, Surah Al-Asr, is in regards to salvation or success in the hereafter. We talked about Surah Al-Asr, we explained it using other ayat, and we finished the first part or the first criteria to success, which is Iman, and today we'll move on to the second criteria to success, and that is Al-Amal Al-Salih. As we know, success depends on four things: Iman, Amal al-Salih, Tawasul bil-Haq, and Tawasul bil-Sabr. To have faith, to do good deeds, to join one another to the truth, and mutual exhortation to patience and perseverance. Faith in itself, real faith, pure faith, must result in good deeds. There's no such thing as blind faith. You believe, then you will automatically want to do the good deeds. And among those good deeds, we are required to transform our own selves. We must begin with our own selves, and then good deeds at the level of the family, good deeds at the level of the society, and good deeds at the level of establishing the just social order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the levels in which a real mu'min goes through. This is the path a real mu'min goes through in terms of the Amal Salih. And we will begin today, inshaAllah ta'ala, with the character of a mu'min. What's the character? What's his character like? What should he be doing? What are the actions that a mu'min needs to do to qualify to be a mu'min? After all, salvation depends on Iman. So what are the things I need to do to qualify to be a mu'min? Now, this Al-Amal Al-Salih, I need to make this clear. Unfortunately, it has been reduced to the level of only modes of worship or rituals, salah and zakat and all that. This is what we know of Al-Amal Salih. Indeed, it is part of the Amal Salih, but it is not all the Amal Salih. And I remind us when the Prophet ﷺ was preaching for at least 10 years, because salah was not compulsory upon the believers until the 10th year after wahy. So were they not doing Amal Salih? Of course they did. There were no zakat, no sawm, no salah, no hajj, none of that, none whatsoever. When the Prophet began his mission, calling people to La ilaha illallah. Yes, they had Iman, but they went through a phase of self-purification. Self-purification. And that is part of the Amal Salih. So as believers, this is the first step we need to do, as Allah informed us in Surah Al-Jum'ah and in so many other places. وَالَّذِي بَعْثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. It is He, Allah, who sent a messenger from the unlettered people to teach them the ayat of Allah, the verses of the Qur'an, and to purify them. So, and those were the two things that were happening for at least 10 years before the 5 daily prayers were prescribed to the believers. So what we will do is we will begin, inshallah, talking about the character of the believer. And then we will move on to another section which we will discuss tomorrow, how that believer matures into becoming a real mature mu'min from Surah Al-Furqan. And then we'll move into Amal Salih at the family level, and then society level, and so on and so forth. So we'll begin with Surah Al-Mu'minun, the first few ayat. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. Indeed, the believers, the mu'minun, are successful. They will attain falah. And this falah comes from the root word falaha, and falaha means to cut. And in order to understand the word falah and what it means, just think, for those Arabic-speaking people know what a fallah is. Fallah is a farmer. Falah is a farmer who cuts the soil, puts the seed down, and works very hard, tirelessly, day after day, to make sure that no weeds overtakes the plants. He weeds it out, makes sure that he waters it, and enough sunlight is coming to it, and so on and so forth, so that it can produce. But without the effort, nothing will be reaped. So, al-amal al-salih is to put some effort, some endeavor toward something that you want to attain. And a believer want to attain falah, want to attain felicity and success in the hereafter. So it is here where we work very hard to reap the rewards of the akhirah or of the hereafter. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is confirming, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And who are those mu'minun? Who are those believers? I will go over the ayat that describe them. But before that, in the previous surah, Surah Al-Hajj, Surah Al-Mu'minun comes after Surah Al-Hajj. In the last two ayat of Surah Al-Hajj, very important two ayat because they tell us about our obligations toward the deen of Allah. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اركعوا واسجدوا واعبدوا ربكم وافعلوا الخير لعلكم تفلحون وجاهدوا في الله حق جهاده. 4 things we are required to do to attain salvation. And those 4 things actually are compatible with the 4 conditions or preconditions to salvation. First and foremost, you have to bow and prostrate, fulfill the modes of worship. Naturally, you need to be a believer to do that. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So he is addressing the believers. All believers, bow and prostrate, fulfill the modes of worship. وَاعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ. Complete ibadah to Allah. Surrender completely. أُدْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَةً. Enter Islam in totality. Every command of Allah, you must honor. Every command of the Prophet, you must honor. And then وَافْعَلُوا الْخَيْرَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Do good unto others so you may attain falah, so you may be prosperous. And this is why the very next surah begins with قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Indeed, the believers are successful only if they fulfill the conditions of complete submission to Allah, modes of worship, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing what they are required to do in terms of interacting with other people, making da'wah to them, inviting them to Islam, struggling in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, struggling to make Him supreme here in this world. So those are the ones who will attain success. Who are they? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. First and foremost, you find them humble in their prayers, which means prayers is an integral part of al-amal al-salih of an individual. It is the central amal al-salih a mu'min must do, begin with and die on. Salah. As-salatu imadu deen. The salah is the pillar that lifts and holds the deen. And a mu'min prays. A real mu'min prays 5 times a day. Prays the additional nawafil, sunnahs, and so on and so forth. But Allah is not talking about keeping the prayers. Rather, He's saying, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. This is very important. They are humble in their prayers. What does that mean? خَشَعَ يَخْشَعُ is to lower your gaze and humble yourself. You know, we have the ayah, أَبْصَارُهُمْ خَاشِعَةٌ. On the day of judgment, their gazes will be lowered down on the day of judgment before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we approach salah, when we stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray, our attitude and feeling and behavior should be, I am ready to meet my Lord. It's not just mechanical movements I am making to perform my salah. It's not a ritual. I am here preparing myself fully. My spirit is there, not only my body. My spirit is before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. But at the same time, you find those humble individuals staying away from lahu. Lahu is usually translated to vain talk, but really in reality, it means anything that is useless. It could be watching television, shows that are absolutely of no benefit to you in this world or the akhirah. Or it could be vain talk, or it could be any form of entertainment that is taking you away from precious time that you could be learning the Qur'an and coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those humble believers, you find them staying away from all the nonsense things that go on in this world. They are serious people. They are here to serve their God and to serve the cause. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. And you find them doing purification, zakat. Sometimes we translate it to giving and paying zakat. It's not that, maybe it is part of it, but that's not what it means. Otherwise, Allah would have said, وَالَّذِينَ آتُونَ الزَّكَاةِ, because every time Allah mentions the word zakat, ita is mentioned. They give zakat. يُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ وَيُؤْتُ الزَّكَاةِ. But here Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. They are purifying themselves. In other words, they go through this personal development of purifying their souls. This is why tazkiyah is so important. The first thing the Prophet did with the Sahaba before teaching them the do's and don'ts was the purification of the soul. To have the correct aqidah, to have the correct understanding of this world, of Allah, of the universe, of ourselves. Going through this purification process. This is the attitude of a true believer. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. And those individuals protect their chastity, protect their private parts. They do not commit zina, they do not commit fornication, they do not commit any adultery because it is among the big sins. They recognize how potent the sexual urge is, but they have this attitude of controlling themselves. And it is only through self-purification that you are able to control yourself. Otherwise, it's very easy to fall prey and victim to shaitan by adorning for you a beautiful woman out there want you to commit this heinous sin. No, those true believers, they guard their chastity. They're very careful. They don't hang out with the crowd that invite them to such vices. They don't go to the internet and watch sites that are inviting to such vices. They are very protective of themselves. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. حَافِظُونَ, they guard and protect their private parts. إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. Except with their spouses. They can fulfill their sexual desire with their spouses. The husband and wives, they are to fulfill their sexual needs. How else could they fulfill it? But in a halal way, in a permissible way. They're married, Allah said it's permissible. There is no problem in doing that. إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُم, or what their right hand possess. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. But whoever goes beyond those limits, the limits that Allah set and allowed within the marriage, then they are indeed the transgressors. They have transgressed the bounds and the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's a quality of the real believers. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. And incidentally, a similar section that talks about the mu'min's character is found in Surah Al-Ma'arij. Surah Al-Ma'arij is ayah number 19 all the way until ayah number 35. Similar ayat to the ayat I'm sharing with you from Surah Al-Mu'minun. We're not going to go over the whole ayat, but the ayah that I shared with you, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. Exactly verbatim is repeated in Surah Al-Ma'arij. And the ayah after that, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. You find those individuals, same ayah is repeated in Surah Ma'arij, verbatim also. And whenever there's repetition in the Qur'an, tells you how important the subject is, meaning pay attention. So aside from protecting their chastity, you find them fulfilling their amanat, their trusts, fulfilling their promises. Those are part of the attitude of a real believer. Whenever they are trusted with something, they honor it. Whenever they promise something, they honor it. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا إيمان لمن لا أمانة له ولا دين لمن لا عهد له. There can be, categorically, the Prophet said, there can be no iman, no faith to one who cannot be trusted. How can a mu'min, a believer, a Muslim cannot be trusted? Unfortunately, we have Muslims who cannot be trusted. This is the sad part. And any Muslim who is not to be trusted means that he or she has a sign of hypocrisy and sign of nifaq. Because as the Prophet described to us the qualities of nifaq and hypocrisy, إِذَا حَدَّثَ كَذَبَ وَإِذَا أُتُمِنَ خَانَ وَإِذَا وَعَدَ أَخْلَفَ. A person who has hypocrisy is one who, when he speaks, he lies. And when he is entrusted with something, he betrays the trust. And when he makes a promise, breaks the promise. A believer does not do that. A true believer honors the trusts. And the Prophet said categorically, there can be no iman. No one can claim that I am a mu'min if he betrays the trust. وَلَا دِينَ لِمَنْ لَا عَهْدَ لَهُ. And there can be no deen, religion. He cannot claim to be a real Muslim if he goes back on the promises, if he does not fulfill the promises he or she makes. So that's another good quality of a true believer. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. They guard, they safeguard their trusts as well as their promises. And that's the character of a mu'min. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. Again, we started with salah, we end with salah. Now here, in the beginning, you find them humble in their prayers. They're there, focusing on their salah, paying attention to every word they are saying, meaning what they are saying. But we end with, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. They guard their prayers, all the prayers. They pray on time. They don't delay their prayers. And if they are unable to pray immediately on time, which is what we should do, we're recommended to pray as soon as the prayer enters. Now, if we are unable to, you have a window. Even if you perform the salah within that window, even up to the last minute, you have honored the salah on time. But a lot of people skip salah. A lot of people make up salah, qada. That's not the attitude of a mu'min. The attitude of a real mu'min is they guard all their salah. All their salah. إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Indeed, the salah had been prescribed upon the believers, the mu'mineen, the true believers, to be performed on time. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. And then we have the other ayah from Surah Al-Ma'arij, where it says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ. Now, what's the difference between عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ and عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ? Very fundamental difference. The first one in the plural form. Plural form meaning they guard every prayer and they pray it on time. Whereas here in the singular, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ, they guard their prayer in the singular, which means they give the full prayer its due, whatever is required to do in that prayer. They don't steal from their prayer. How can one steal? And the Prophet was asked. One steals from his prayer when you don't stand straight after, going from ruku' to standing, getting ready to go for sujood. You hardly stand and then you go for sujood. You have stolen from your salah. When you are in sajda, when you are making a prostration, instead of sitting fully before you make the other sajda, they go up and they come back down quickly, like pecking. The Prophet said, this is stealing. This is stealing from your salah. So, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ, they are perfect in their prayers. Every prayer, they fulfill it precisely as it should be performed. Standing straight, bowing, as you should bow. And then stand again straight. And then come down humbly. You don't have to rush. As a matter of fact, the Prophet used to say regarding salah, when he would ask Bilal to announce the adhan or the iqamah, he would say, "Arihna biha ya Bilal." Let us find comfort in it, in the prayer, O Bilal. A prayer, salah, is not a burden. It's supposed to comfort us. If we don't feel that comfort, there's something wrong with our iman. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ. Allah said, those are the inheritors of paradise. Those are the heirs. الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسَ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. They are going to inherit the paradise, Al-Firdaus. Not only paradise, any paradise, Al-Firdaus. And we all know Al-Firdaus is the highest place in Jannah. And Allah reserved it for those real conscious believers who fulfill the criteria of real faith. الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسَ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. They will be abiding therein forever and ever and ever. So that's the quality of a real believer. This is where we begin with the self, purification of the soul, because Allah wants us to do more as part of the Al-Amal Salih. Inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow with the other aspect of Al-Amal Salih. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم.